Subin shouts at Jiwoo as she pushes him off of her. She asks him why he used his powers when he knows that using them could cause his core to crack again. Jiwoo simply smiles at Subin and tells her that when he saw that she was in danger, he couldn't stop himself from jumping in. Back at the sidelines, all the students and teachers are left in awe and amazement at the fact that Jiwoo was able to outspeed Duke. However, not too far away, Kayden is seen irritated by Jiwoo's actions. But he is nowhere as livid as Kayden can barely help himself from trembling in anger, squeezing the life out of his food pouch. The professors from the World Awakened Academy are also taken aback by Jiwoo's speed. Even Duke seems surprised that there is an awakened one who is around his age, and also has super speed just like him. Duke then attacks Jiwoo in spite for embarrassing him. He launches a blast at Jiwoo, as Subin tries to push Jiwoo out of the way. But she is too late as the blast makes contact, causing a small explosion. Or so it seems. Jiwoo uses his speed to evade the attack in an instant and appears beside Duke. Duke then asks who he is, to which Jiwoo tells him his name and that he's a student of the academy. This frustrates the World Academy professors more as they begin to question how many powerful awakeners South Korea has been hiding. Sensing the tension in the air, In-hyuk swiftly concludes the match and deems Duke the winner of the match. Jisuk mocks Subin since she's the only one amongst them who lost their match against the World Academy. Duke then asks Jiwoo to spar with him, since Jiwoo interrupted his match, and so he needs to take responsibility for it. In-hyuk tries to stop the match, and tells Duke that Jiwoo was recently seriously injured, and so he is in no condition to spar. But the World Academy teachers call him out for his earlier lie, and say that Jiwoo seems recovered enough. They decide to have their match in 3 days. Before leaving, the World Academy teacher tells the Korean Awakeners that she never imagined that this country would have this many talented rookies. She tells them that their country has a very bright future, but for some reason, it doesn't seem as if she's saying it with the best intentions. Afterward, the students celebrate their victory since they were able to get back at the World Academy and protect their pride as Koreans. Jiwoo celebrates with his friends, but as he turns to the stands, he can see the frustrated expressions of both Kayden and Kayden. Jiwoo apologizes to Kayden for using his powers, even when Kayden had warned him about the possible repercussions that could come from it. Kayden tells Jiwoo that the amount of power he used today shouldn't cause him much problems, but still forbids him from participating in his upcoming match. Kayden tells Jiwoo that if Kayden says that it is impossible for him to heal Jiwoo, then they have no other choice but to forfeit the match. Kayden gets provoked by this statement and says that he never said that it would be impossible for him. Kayden continues to provoke Kayden more and more. Eventually, Kayden comes around and tells both Kayden and Jiwoo that he would do the impossible. In 3 days, he would completely heal Jiwoo so he could participate in his upcoming match against Duke. Back at the chairman's office, the instructors are seen apologizing for not being able to hide their strengths from the World Academy. But Chairman Han tells them not to worry and that perhaps he was wrong and that maybe they underestimated their students too much. He tells the instructors that the biggest reason why the academy was created in the first place was not only to train the students to be stronger, but to bring awakened ones of their country together in the event of a crisis. The students proved that they can unite together to face outside foes, so now it was their job as instructors to guide and protect them. That evening, Jiwoo is seen taking a walk, excited by the fact that he would be able to have a sparring match again. He strolls around the academy for a while until he runs into Chairman Han. The two talk about Jiwoo's recovery and his upcoming match. The chairman asks Jiwoo if he's worried about his match against Duke, informing Jiwoo that awakens can be fatally injured or killed in matches like these. But Jiwoo tells him that he's not scared, but instead is worried that he may not be able to do his best, and that he may let his friends down, who in their matches put everything on the line. Chairman Han smiles at Jiwoo's response and offers to teach Jiwoo a skill, since Jiwoo's fighting style is very similar to his own. Chairman Han tells Jiwoo that the skill he wants to teach him will allow him to better utilize his signature skill, Max Speed. But Jiwoo turns him down again, as it doesn't feel right for him to learn from the chairman, since he's not even his apprentice. Chairman Han starts laughing and says that he's not used to being turned down, since there have been many awakened ones who are dying just to learn from him. He reassures Jiwoo that it is a skill that he has created himself, and that it is not a technique passed down through Baekho. Eventually, Jiwoo accepts the offer, believing that it would not be respectful to turn down someone as high and respected as the chairman when he is trying to help him. They go into the training room to practice the chairman's skill. Chairman Han helps Jiwoo train by putting his power inside Jiwoo's body. As the chairman's power flows within Jiwoo's body, Jiwoo states that it's much different from both Kayden's and Kartin's flow of power. After learning the chairman's skill, Jiwoo thanks him for his help and leaves. When he returns to his room, Jiwoo is questioned by Kayden and Kartin about his whereabouts. Jiwoo tells them about the skill the chairman taught him to help him in his spar. Although they don't inform him, Kayden and Kartin both realize that Chairman Han may have taught Jiwoo a part of his own force control. 3 days pass, and the day of Jiwoo's and Duk's sparring match arrives. Everyone waits in anticipation as they wait for Jiwoo to arrive. Eventually, Jiwoo arrives, stealing everyone's attention as they prepare to see his power. Elsewhere, another World Academy student named Kane arrives at the school with his partner, Lancelot. Before the match begins, Duk adopts a gentle attitude and introduces himself to Jiwoo as a facade in order to make Jiwoo lower his guard. The match starts and the two fighters rush toward each other. Jiwoo is surprised by Duk's decision to initiate a battle of close combat, but without hesitation, he just increases his speed to outmaneuver Duk. Not wanting to lose in a contest of speed, Duk tries to match Jiwoo's speed. The two fighters move so fast that the bystanders could only see a blurry figure, barely being able to see their afterimages. Jiwoo picks up the speed once more, putting Duk at a disadvantage as Jiwoo starts cornering him with his speed. In retaliation, Duk goes full speed and punches Jiwoo with all his might. But that was only Jiwoo's afterimage. In a flash, Jiwoo appears behind Duk and turns the tables with a punch of his own, as his fist grows closer and closer to Duk's face. However, at the very last second, Duk resorts to his other Awaken ability, and he uses his skill to stop Jiwoo's punch. Losing their contest of speed, Duk uses his ability to push Jiwoo back, angered by the fact that an unaffiliated Awakener was able to overpower his speed. With Duk resorting back to his original fighting style, Jiwoo realizes that Duk has gotten serious and that the real battle was finally beginning. Kayden and Kartin arrive at the training grounds to watch the match. Kartin complains that treating Jiwoo all night has drained him. As a result, Kayden then offers Kartin some food to cheer him up. Back to the match, Jiwoo is trying his best to evade Duk's attacks, but some of Duk's attacks do hit Jiwoo and injure him. Kartin asks Kayden why he didn't tell Jiwoo about Duk's fighting style before the match, and he replies that it's because Jiwoo didn't want him to do so. Kartin states that Jiwoo may look different, but he is just as reckless as his mentor when it comes to fighting. Duk realizes by this time that Jiwoo has got nothing but his speed. He tells Jiwoo that unlike all his previous opponents, he's used to super speed, so his attacks won't work on him. Hearing this, Jiwoo changes up his tactics. As Duk continues to attack Jiwoo, Jiwoo decides to pick up the speed more as he moves towards Duk, pushing past and evading all of Duk's attacks. until he finally reaches him and punches him in the face, bringing Duke to his knees. This pushes Duke over the edge as his aura begins to flare, launching blasts out in a frenzy. Duke fights seriously with the intent to kill as he tells Jiwoo to know his place. Duke prepares one final attack and launches it at Jiwoo. However, rather than trying to evade Duke's attack, Jiwoo decides to take a gamble. Using his skill, Max Speed, Jiwoo takes Duke's attack face-on as he pushes through the blast. Noticing Jiwoo's attempt, Duke stops Jiwoo in his tracks and uses his powers to stop Jiwoo. Jiwoo nearly gets defeated until he remembers the chairman's teachings. Using the skill he learned from Chairman Han, Jiwoo coated himself in his aura, allowing him to create a piercing attack with his body. Jiwoo breaks through Duke's attack, sending him flying with an electrifying punch. Jiwoo is deemed the winner of the bout after Duke is deemed unconscious. The crowd erupts in cheers as they celebrate his victory. Seeing his own technique, Chairman Han is amazed that Jiwoo was able to use it in real combat in such a short time. The World Academy students and teachers are left in disbelief by Duke's loss. The teacher grits her teeth as she begins to wonder how she is supposed to explain to her superiors how the World Academy students lost to an unknown school. After getting his injuries tended to, Kayden tells Jiwoo that his core is a mess and that it could break at any minute. Jiwoo nervously laughs it off, and Kayden congratulates him on his win. Kayden is especially impressed by Jiwoo's last punch and asked Jiwoo if that was the technique that the chairman taught him. Jiwoo tells him yes, and further explains that with the chairman's technique, he was able to make the power of his core flow throughout his whole body, allowing his max speed to become more stable and powerful than before. Kayden briefly looks at Kayden before informing Jiwoo that to awakened ones, force control isn't just a way of gathering power within their body, but that it is also how they effectively move and use that power. Kayden also tells him that there are many guys that would do anything to get a part of force control. But Jiwoo tells Kayden that he already knows and is confused about why he's telling him this. Kayden finally reveals to Jiwoo that the technique that Chairman Han taught him is a part of the chairman's force control that has to do with moving power. After realizing how important the skill that the chairman taught him actually was, Jiwoo immediately ran outside to find the chairman. He eventually finds the chairman at the same place as last time and immediately thanks Chairman Han for teaching him his technique, even though he's not his apprentice. The chairman tells Jiwoo that there's no need to thank him and that it is simply one way of utilizing his power, and that now it is up to Jiwoo to make it into his own. Elsewhere, Kane is informed about the World Academy's loss against the South Korean Academy. The professor tries to make excuses, stating that she was misinformed about the strength of the awakened kids at this academy. But Kane gets angry and tells them to stop making excuses for tarnishing the World Academy's name. Before leaving, he tells them that if they would have been more careful, the outcome would have been different. As Kane takes a walk through the academy, he is seen worried about what he is going to tell his grandfather, the principal of the World Awakened Academy. As a Luterane, he should be leading the academy and upholding its name. Kane worries how this loss will reflect on himself, and how others will question his qualification as an upcoming rookie. Kane is then shaken from his thoughts by Lancelot's growl. Following Lancelot's glare, Kane spots Ileceed walking Duri. Back at the teacher's lounge, Inhyuk is seen reporting to his fellow instructors about the news of Kane Luterane's arrival at the academy. When asked why both Kane and Duke arrived separately from the others, Inhyuk reveals that it may have to do with information that he received about another academy. Apparently, at an academy in a neighboring country, they recently suffered significant damage because of Duke and Kane. The World Awakened Union is no stranger to these tactics, and in order to showcase their powers and abilities, they send their students to other academies to prove their superiority. Myung, agreeing with Inhyuk, says that even the animal that Kane brought with him is a mystical creature, and that one is only given to a direct descent of the Luterane family. She adds that the Luterane family worked hard to create it, and that normal animals are no match for its overwhelming power. Back at the garden, Kane goes up to Illustrator and introduces himself. Kane proposes that they have a sparring match, since both of them have the same ability to commune with animals. However, Illustrator refuses, saying that combat isn't exactly her specialty. Not far away, Kayden and Kayden are seen taking a stroll as Kayden struggles to replenish his strength. Kayden suggests that they take a nap in the sun. Seeing them alone, Lancelot immediately runs off and tries to attack and eat them. But Duri attacks Lancelot and protects Kayden and Kayden. Rushing to their animals, Kane states that it's a shame and says that now they have no choice but to fight. Illustrator tries to explain the situation to Kane and tells him that Duri only attacked Lancelot because he was about to attack Jiwoo's cats. Although intrigued by hearing the name of the student that defeated Duke, Kane refuses to listen to Illustrator, and the fight between Duri and Lancelot continues. Lancelot pounces at Duri as it tries to rip the dog to shreds. Illustrator tries to intervene and help Duri, but Kane threatens her and tells her that if she gets involved, he'll have no other choice but to fight too. Illustrator stands on the sidelines in frustration as Duri struggles to fight off the beast. Although Duri is completely outclassed and has now been blinded by the panther, she still continues to protect Kayden and Kayden with her life. With their victory nearly secured, Kane gives Lancelot the final order for him to kill Duri. Illustrator rushes to help Duri, but suddenly Kayden appears on top of Lancelot. Using his meow punch, Kayden knocks the panther out, leaving its head in the ground and bumps on its head. Seeing Duri hurt, Illustrator can't stop herself from tending to Duri as she begins to apologize and cry. Duri starts licking Illustrator to calm her down. She then turns her attention to Kayden as well and makes sure that he's okay too. Realizing that Lancelot had lost, Kane feels extremely humiliated that his mystical creature lost to a fat cat like Kayden. Jiwoo eventually arrives at the scene after hearing the ruckus on the way to his room. Kane thinks that it must be Jiwoo who had given his powers to Kayden, as it looks like the most plausible explanation for what has happened. Although initially confused by Illustrator's gratitude, Duri's injury, and the shaken panther, Jiwoo, eventually comes to the conclusion that it must have been Kayden who caused the ruckus he heard. Assuming that Jiwoo also had the ability to commune with animals, Kane challenges Jiwoo to have a match with him immediately. The instructors rush to the training grounds upon hearing about a sudden sparring match. Seeing that Jiwoo was Kane's opponent, everyone is surprised. Inhyuk tries to stop Kane since Jiwoo already had a match earlier, but Kane says that he wants to have a match with Jiwoo only using their animal communication abilities. This is another surprise to everyone since they can't believe that Jiwoo's fat cat will be fighting the mythical beast Lancelot. Inhyuk asks Jiwoo if he is gonna be alright, and Jiwoo tells Inhyuk not to worry. Before the match begins, Kane tells Jiwoo that Lancelot was caught off guard earlier, but now with them working together, the outcome will be completely different. Kane flows his power into Lancelot, causing it to transform into its awakened state. As power flows into Lancelot, it begins to grow in size, developing stripes of inferno and longer, more dangerous claws. Its body radiates intense heat as it looks at Kayden with malice. Lancelot lets out a terrifying roar as it prepares to attack. Looking at the beast tower over Kayden, Jiwoo begins to worry if Kayden would be able to take on Lancelot in his cat state. However, Kayden is not fazed or afraid as his eyes begin to radiate with excitement. Back at the hospital, Illustrator is seen worried about Jiwoo's well-being since she had to miss the sparring match in order to get Duri's wounds tended to. Back to the match, the crowd is left in awe at the power of Lancelot and Kane, as they begin to worry about Jiwoo and Kayden. Before the match begins, Kane tells Jiwoo to say his goodbyes to his cat. As the third beep sounds, Kane commands Lancelot to get his payback and tells Lancelot to swallow up Kayden. Immediately, Lancelot rushes towards Kayden, leaving broken concrete and an ember trail in his tracks. Lancelot opens its jaw, revealing its terrifying teeth as it moves in to swallow Kayden whole. However, with ease, Kayden simply smacks the panther away, launching it backward and causing it to land on its head. Kane shouts at Lancelot to get its act together and tells it to attack Kayden again. Lancelot starts attacking Kayden again, but Kayden easily avoids his attacks as if he is doing some dance steps. When Kayden gets close enough again, he punches Lancelot once more, causing it to go back flying again. Jiwoo stares in awe as he watches how easily Kayden deals with Lancelot in his cat state. But he quickly snaps out of it and goes back to giving his Oscar-worthy performance. Humiliated, Kane stops holding back and decides to show Jiwoo what he can really do. Flowing more power into Lancelot, the panther begins to grow even bigger in size as its flames grow with it. Its skin turns into a pitch-black color as the stripes on its body turns to a molten lava red color. Warning Jiwoo and Kayden that it was its last attack, Lancelot lets out another roar, sending shockwaves and tornadoes of ember. Excited, Kayden licks his lips as his paws begin to spark with electricity. The two cats pounce toward each other for their final exchange. With his meow meow punch, Kayden smacks the colossal panther, sending a surge of electricity throughout the entire training grounds. When the debris finally disappears, Lancelot is seen on the ground unconscious as Kayden licks his paw unscathed, resulting in Jiwoo's win. Even the instructors at the academy are surprised that Kayden was able to defeat the Luterane family's mystical creature. Back in his room, Jiwoo asks Kayden what they should do now since it's going to become a little noisy. Kayden tells Jiwoo that there's no point in worrying and that it already was noisy because he beat Duke. Jiwoo asks Kayden if he is able to use his powers now as a cat. Kayden tells him that he can, but it's still not as strong as he originally was. Jiwoo suddenly gets an unexpected guest at his door. When he opens the door, he is surprised to see Arthur. Arthur properly introduces himself to Jiwoo and thanks him. Since Jiwoo was able to beat both Duke and Kane, he was able to save face for when he and the other students returned to the academy. After giving his thanks, Arthur tells Jiwoo to have a swift recovery and that hopefully they can talk again next time. Inside Chairman Han's office, the professors of the World Awakened Academy are seen complimenting the chairman on how good his students are. However, behind those compliments are feelings of malice. The professor tells Chairman Han that they will have to stay a little longer since their students need more time to recover. Once outside the office, the professor makes up her mind to take Won and Jiwoo with them, since both of them are unaffiliated. Inside the room where Kane is staying, Kane is seen throwing a tantrum as he makes a mess out of everything. Afraid of how his loss against Jiwoo will affect his position, Kane tries to come up with an excuse for his loss. Kane deduces that Kayden himself must be the one that is special and decides that he's going to take Kayden for himself. Subin, Won, and Jisuk visit Jiwoo after hearing about his match with Kane. Subin asks Jiwoo about his ability to communicate with animals and Jiwoo tells her that it can hardly be called an ability, since he can't even control it properly. Subin asks Jiwoo if he can spar with her someday using his communication ability. However, Jisuk stops Subin and says that she'll die if that happens since Jisuk knows about Kayden's real strength. Subin, thinking that Jisuk is still looking down on her, starts beating him up. Wooin tells them that Iseul is going back to Myr since Duri is badly injured. All of them leave afterward and tell Jiwoo that he should get some rest and recover. Afterward, Jiwoo goes out to talk to Iseul and runs into her outside his door. Illeced informs Jiwoo that one of Duri's eyes is hurt so badly that she is worried that it might go blind. Illeced blames herself for what happened to Duri and is frustrated that she couldn't properly protect Duri. She tells Jiwoo that she came to say goodbye before she leaves to go back to Mer, in hopes that they may be able to heal Duri. Saddened by the news, Jiwoo asks Kayden if he can heal Duri's eye. Kayden agrees, but on one condition. He will heal Duri's eye if Kayden teaches him the cat punch he used in his earlier match. Although surprised by Kayden's ridiculous request, Kayden agrees to Kayden's terms, since he feels partly responsible for what happened to Duri. Kayden arrives at the infirmary and tells everyone, including Jiwoo, Illeced, Myung, and the rest of the staff, to leave the building so that he could perform the procedure. Upon entering the room, Kayden transforms into a cat. When Kayden asks him why he transformed, Kayden tells Kayden that he is curious to see what will happen if he treats animals in a cat's body and that it would be great practice for him. Outside the building, Illeced asks Jiwoo why Kayden is treating Duri. Jiwoo tells her that Kayden really loves animals, which Illeced finds admirable. In a flashback, Jiwoo asks Kayden if he's okay with teaching his skill to Kayden. Kayden tells Jiwoo that it's just a cheap skill, so it's a small price to pay for Kayden's treatment. He explains to Jiwoo that Kayden merely asked for him to show him the cat punch, which is a punch that all cats naturally use. Kayden uses a force control fit for his bones and muscles, so essentially, it's a win-win situation for him. Myung wonders why Kayden agreed to treat Duri, since Kayden never does anything he doesn't want to do, and reaches the conclusion that it must be because of Jiwoo. Elsewhere, Arthur visits Duke and tells him that Jiwoo had a fight with Kane on the same day he fought Jiwoo. He tells Duke that Jiwoo can even communicate with animals well. This news angered Duke as he clenches his shirt and tells himself that he lost because he didn't have a good grasp of Jiwoo's abilities. Out on the campus, Kane is looking around trying to find Kayden, but rather than finding Kayden, he finds Kayden. Since Kane thinks Jiwoo is the owner of Kayden too, he tries to control Kayden using his abilities. However, Kane's powers don't work on him, and after insulting Kayden, Kane gets repeatedly punched by Kayden and eventually gets knocked out. Later that afternoon, the instructors of the academy are sitting and discussing Kane's short-term memory loss. Inhyuk tells everyone that the security guards found Kane walking around the academy with a blank look. All of them reach the conclusion that this happened because of his loss in his recent match against Jiwoo, which was a big shock for him. Afterward, all of them pray following Inhyuk's lead, hoping that Kane's memory comes back soon. Kane wakes up in his bed and notices that he can't remember anything. The last thing he remembers is that he was looking for Kayden when he saw Kayden instead. But no matter how much he tries to remember what happened after that, he is unable to do so. The professors from the World Awakened Academy call out for Wooin to meet. The professors offer Wooin a spot at the World Awakened Academy, but Wooin declines their offer and walks away. Afterward, the professors meet up with Jiwoo and propose the same offer they did to Wooin. And just like Wooin, Jiwoo also declines, but he does it respectfully. The professor, after hearing both of their refusals, gets extremely angry at them. After getting rejected by both Wooin and Jiwoo, the professors also get rejected by Jisuk, Subin, Gangsuk, and even Suchin. Out in the field, Jiwoo is seen playing with Duri after her treatment. Illeced thanks Jiwoo, since it was he who asked Kayden to treat Duri. Although Jiwoo insists that Kayden tended to Duri's wounds due to his own accords, Illeced is still grateful for Jiwoo's help. Subin arrives and asks Illeced if she is sick since her face is getting red. Feeling embarrassed, Illeced pushes Subin off of her and runs off with Duri. Wooin asks Jiwoo if the professors from the World Awakened Academy also came to meet him. Wooin tells Jiwoo that they came to see him for the purpose of recruiting him for the World Awakened Academy. Subin and Jisuk also include that the professors also came to see them too. Jiwoo asks all his friends what they said, to which everyone replied that they also refused their offer. Jiwoo signs in relief and laughs with his friends as they go on their way to hang out. The professors and the students of the World Awakened Academy then take their leave with a bitter taste in their mouths. They thank Chairman Han for the hospitality and the experience. But as they leave, the professor orders her coworker to kill the students of the Awakened Academy. At night, Jiwoo is seen doing his nightly jog as an assassin approaches him from behind and tries to attack him. But before the assassin can attack Jiwoo, Emma Yang gets in his way, stopping the assassin from attacking Jiwoo.